Just Rosh Yeshiva, the Rosh Yeshivas, a lot of chashuv people here, and that itself is a perfect introduction for Rabbi Goldman. Tagan already said, you see the people coming to hear Rabbi Goldman. So the least I could say is he has a lot of friends. He has a lot of admirers. But I think it's a testament to Rabbi Goldman's unique Kananahara, positive perspective on things, positive perspective on life. You know, especially here, you know, we're going through a challenge with this pandemic, and having a Rosh Yeshiva there in the trenches, like Rabbi Goldman, in St. Louis, and holding together yeshiva, that is quite a amazing thing to do. And being the fact he's intimately related with our yeshiva, both on multiple levels, but he was part of the yeshiva for quite a few years. So it's a big schus anytime we have a chance to chop him. And tonight will be our treat to have him give a Vaad to our base medrash. Meshachayach Rabbi Goldman.
All right, thank you so much, Rabbi Kier. Thank you so much, Rabbi Palgan and the Rosh Yeshivas for giving me this tremendous schus. It's unbelievable, the schus. To be able to speak to such chashuv b'nei Torah. The b'nei Torah that are literally holding up the world. You know, when I would come home from yeshiva, when I was in Queens, there wasn't any room in the dormitory. So I slept at home. I'd come home after Seder, and my mother would greet me the same way every day. She always had cookies ready to go. They weren't always hot, but the story would sound better if they were always hot. But always the same way. He said, Avi, how is holding up the world today? And Rabbosai, it's such a schus to speak to the olam of Bnei Yeshivas, the chashuv talmidim of Torah's Chaim and alumni of Torah's Chaim, that are literally the Bnei Torah of the world, holding up the world. The Chavetz Chaim, he writes in one of his letters, and when he's describing that there was a weakness of Limud Torah in the world, you could feel the emotions of the Chavetz Chaim, seeing the cracks in the foundations, literally, like a fear that the world was literally going to implode. And this is the incredible schus that we have as the Bnei Torah of the world, to pshutu kamashmo, to literally, al shloshet dvarim al mo'omed, al Torah, al voda, al gmilas chasadim, we are literally the ones that are holding up the world. So it's such a schus to be able to speak to the bearers and the supporters of the world. So I had this following thought when I was on a plane once. You know, it used to be in the old days, all the stories were with the rabbi on a train or a rabbi on an inn. Now all the stories are rabbis on planes. So I'm on a plane, and I look around, and I noticed that as I actually looked, and then I walked up and down the plane, and I noticed that in a plane which was quite full, it was a big Southwest plane, there was about a handful of people that had laptops out and looked like they were doing work. That left about 200 something people playing Fruit Ninja. Now, that got me thinking, what's going on here? Why are so many people playing Fruit Ninja? And I realized a very simple thing about life is that when we're on a plane, the goal of being on a plane is to get somewhere else. We're in a temporary state of affairs. We're only here to get somewhere else. So what do we do when we're in a temporary state of affairs? We kind of just try to block out this part of our lives and just try to get through it till we get to where we want to go. So there goes lots of Fruit Ninja and Subway Surfers or whatever else people were playing. And I realized that there's such a minority of people that when they're in, so to speak, a holding pattern, that they live life, that they live in the moment. They live it up, literally. Rabbi, it's so chashuv that the B'nai Torah of the world, that right now we're in a holding pattern. Everybody's waiting for this to be over. But what are we doing when we're in our holding pattern? We're living. We're literally living the ultimate life, the life of a Ben Torah, steiging and learning. It's unbelievable what the Chevra do, the steiging and learning, the 3 storim a day. We're not waiting for this time to pass. We're chapping around the time that exists today. It's so powerful, Rabosai, and we have to really give ourselves a tremendous, tremendous pat on our back and say, Ashreinu matov chalkeinu, that we're literally living in the moment. Rabosai, we're in a time of the Omer, and it's a time of mourning, not because of the Omer, but because of the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. And we know the Gemara famously tells us that the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, they died because they were lo nogu kavod zelazeh, because they did not give each other the proper kavod. The Maharsha explains that it wasn't that they simply didn't give each other the proper kavod. The Maharsha explains that the problem was that they weren't machshiv their friend's Torah. Perhaps they didn't listen properly to the answer or the question of their chavrusa. They didn't properly appreciate and try to understand what the Torah of their friend on a certain dakas level. And therefore they were chayiv misa. The Maharsha explains, why were they chayiv misa? Why such a harsh punishment? So he explains, because Torah is chayim. Ki heim chayenu v'orach yemenu, because Torah is our life. And the Talmidim Rabbi Akiva not being machshiv their friend's Torah they were not being machshiv life itself. And therefore, midah keneged midah, they didn't have the schus to live. Rashiva Zatzal would point out from this Maharsha that when we say ki heim chayenu v'orach yemenu, that it's not just a poetic way of saying the Torah is very important. You know, when we're young, we say, oh, basketball is my life. Basketball is not my life. That's a very nice way of saying that I really like basketball. Torah is our life, pshuto kemashmo. And us as the B'nai Torah of the world, that we're in a difficult situation, we're at home and there's a lot going on, there's tremendous tzaras, and some of us suffered very, very, very personal tzaras. But our life as B'nai Torah, clinging to the Torah, goes on and on and on, clinging to life itself and living chayim in the moment. We know that if a Talmud, he kills somebody b'shogeg, so like everybody has to go to the Ari Mikla, but there's a very unique halacha. That if a Talmud kills somebody b'shogeg, his Rebbe has to go to the Ari Mikla with him. And similarly, if a Rebbe kills b'shogeg, then he also has to go to the Ir Mikla. There's also very interesting halacha. His yeshiva has to go with him. What's the understanding? And what's the source? The source is, the Gemara tells us, v'chai. The pasuk tells us he has to go to the Ir Mikla v'chai, and he has to live there. But there's a big problem. A Talmud, he's going to leave the yeshiva. How in the world is he even going to be v'chai? How is he going to be alive? Because he's without his yeshiva. And therefore, no matter how big of a Talmud Chacham the Talmud is, his level of learning is going to suffer. And therefore, it's going to be lacking in his chai, in his life, in his living. And therefore, the yeshiva must go with him. So he could live in the moment, in his difficult situation, in the Ir Miklat, but he needs to be v'chai, he needs to be alive. He needs to live chayim to the utmost. And chayim without a yeshiva is not chayim. And so too, if a Rebbe kills b'shogeg, he must also go. Because a Rebbe, without the Talmidim steiging and learning together, it's also a lack in v'chai. Rabosai, we're clinging to chayim itself, but we're not in yeshiva. But that's not true. Look what's going on over here, Rabosai. The yeshiva reaches out, and so many people come to learn in the yeshiva. That's what we're doing, Rabosai. We're bringing the yeshiva with us. We're bringing life with us. We're not just going to go off into a corner and lack in our v'chai, lack in our life. We're going to live chayim to the utmost and live in yeshiva. And it's unbelievable, Rabbosai, that so many Talmidim, they come together as current Talmidim of the yeshiva and alumni of the yeshiva, and come together to be in yeshiva, to live chayim to the utmost, not to live in a holding pattern, and not to live a basic chayim, but to live chayim to the utmost. It's absolutely beautiful, Rabbosai. And the emissaries, the Rosh Yeshiva Zatzal, he would speak about this all the time. He would say that when he would quote a Rambam, the Rambam tells us that when society reaches its most depraved levels, the Rambam, he says, listen, because the nature of a human being is to be mushba from his surroundings. Therefore, it's incumbent upon a person to go into the desert. Well, the big problem is that nowadays, try to go live in a desert. It's not going to work. I can't even imagine living in a tent for a day. I know some people, they like camping. That's not for me. I can't be a Bedouin. It's never going to happen. So how in the world are we supposed to go out to the Midbar in today's day and age? And the Rosh Yeshiva Zatzal, he would quote the Brisker Rav and the Chazon Ish. One of them said that nowadays the Midbar needs to be our homes. Our homes need to be completely, as much as we possibly could, cut off from the influences of society. And also Rosh Yeshiva Zatzal would say that it needs to be a house of shalom. So a beautiful house of shalom, which the life in the house is so enriched, and they're not involved in society, that's a house that's like a midbar and can protect us from the influences of the world. But there's another shot, and that is that nowadays the midbar is yeshiva, and we have to stay in yeshiva. And yeshivas will provide the powerful walls to protect us from the influences of society. But for Rektor Rosh Yeshiva Zatzal, we can't stay in yeshiva forever. It's not practical. That's not true, says the Rosh Yeshiva Zatzal. We could. Look what's happening right now. Look how many people are still in yeshiva. They're still connected to Torah's Chaim. It's unbelievable. It is so, so, so beautiful. This is how we stay in yeshiva. We stay connected to our Rabbeim. We stay connected to our yeshiva. We learn the Masechtas maybe that the yeshivas are learning. We find out about a shmooze. We stay in touch with our Rabbeim and connected to our Rabbeim and asking shaylos, hashkafa. And Baruch Hashem, in a certain way, it's easier nowadays. Baruch Hashem for Zoom. We could be in the Zoom yeshiva. It's tremendous, Rabbosai, to stay connected to the yeshiva and live the v'chai, like the person in the Ir Miklat that needs to live chai to the ultimate by staying in yeshiva. And this is how we've been, Rabbosai, throughout all the ages. We never leave yeshiva. No matter what's going on in our life, we stay connected. I remember that my wife's grandfather, Rabbi Zabari Zatzal, I remember him saying that when he was in Shanghai, in the Mir Yeshiva during World War II, and there's tragedy falling all over the place. And he lost every family member, his parents, and all of his siblings in one day on Tisha B'Av. But Baruch Hashem, he was saved because he was in the yeshiva in Shanghai. So the worlds are falling apart for Klal Yisrael and for the individuals. It is a big problem in the yeshiva. There's only one sefer of Ktsos HaChoshen in the Mir Yeshiva. Everybody needs to learn the Ktsos. They need to live. So what they do? So my wife's grandfather said he signed up. There was an open slot between 2 and 3 in the morning. So that's when they learned the Ktsos. It's from 2 to 3 in the morning when life is falling apart. Everything is chaos around us. V'chai, we Klal Yisrael live and will always live. I remember hearing from Rabbi Ben Sion Sheit, is telling over by a bris where Rabbi Wasser was naming a son after his father-in-law. And he was telling about his experiences in the camps. And there was a Polish prisoner in one of the concentration camps that literally was going to kill Rabbi Chaim Zev Bomzer, I believe his last name is Bomzer. And because he wanted, I can't remember what it was, a pair of shoes or a coat or something from a warehouse that was in the camp. And he forced Rabbi Chaim Zev to go and steal it from the warehouse. So, and at the risk of his life, he was going to get killed. It was Vaad, he was going to get killed if he didn't do it. So he needed to do it. So he went and did it. When he was in the warehouse, he found a ripped up, I believe it was Gemara Psachim. And he took it with him. He stuck it under his shirt and snuck it out. So I remember Rabbi Chait, he asked his father, why in the world did you do that? You were risking your life. If you'd get caught with that, you'd be killed. So he said, this is life. Life without the Blat Gemara is not Chaim. I remember, I don't know too many drushes. I wish I did. Sometimes they're very interesting. Like drushes. But I remember that Rabbi Ephraim Shapiro, he was one time speaking in North Miami Beach by a parlor meeting for the elementary school in Orlando. And he said over a beautiful drush in the name of Rav Mordechai Gifter. We know Chazal says that a person without Torah is like a fish out of water. So Rav Gifter, he said, why don't we compare it to a fish out of water? Why don't we compare it to a cat without cat food, or a panda without bamboo shoots? You ever see a cat without cat food, or a panda without bamboo shoots? They don't look so healthy. They look like they're dying also. What's unique about a fish out of water? So he explained that what Chazal is teaching us is a beautiful lesson. When you see a cat that hasn't eaten cat food in a long time, it looks very shvach. It looks like it's dying. But a fish out of water, actually just a couple Sundays ago, I was taking a walk around the lake, and there was a dam that came out of the lake, and there was a fish that got washed out of the dam and was trying to make his way back to water. And I saw it was flopping around. And then it would be shvach, but then it would get up and start flopping again. A fish out of water could look like it's more alive when it's out of water than when it's in water. But we know what that is. Said Rav Gifter. That's death throes. That's not being alive. These are just the motions and the animation that a fish is making before its ultimate demise. And he said that, listen, sometimes a person, when he's not learning, they look like they're alive. And his comparison was in Orlando. It looks like, everybody's having a grand old time in all the amusement parks. But that's not Chaim, says Rav Gifter. That's a fish out of water. It looks like it's alive, but ultimately we know what's really happening. Klal Yisrael, and especially the Choshev of B'nai Torah, we're alive. We're so alive. Chazal tell us that Risham b'chayeyem nikra mesim. Risham, even when they're alive, are nikra mesim, and tzadikim afilu b'misosim nikra chayim. Why does the Medrash explains why are Risham afilu b'chayim nikra mesim? Is because they don't know how to appreciate life. They see the beautiful sun setting, and they don't make the bracha, hamari v'arovim. As the Alter Sobotka explains, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu right now, b'chvodo v'atzmo, is making the sun set for me personally. When the sun rises, they don't say the bracha of Yotzer HaMa'oros, that Hashem is currently creating. That's why the Alter says why brachos are often they're belashon hove, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is currently doing it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is currently taking the sun. HaMeir Le'olam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu right now is bringing the sun out for me personally. And therefore, we're a tzaddik, he's aroused, he's alive. He's living it up in Olam Hazeh. He's appreciating the world around him. He's appreciating the gifts that are around him. He's appreciating his family. He says, thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for giving me my beautiful family. Rabbi said, now that's it. That's who we're with. We're with our families. And we thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for giving me my family. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for Borei Minei Mazonos, for currently, right now, creating for me. But Risham Afilu B'Chaim Mikra, because they can't appreciate life. Rabosai, we're living it up in this world, Rabosai. It's unbelievable. We're living the life of Torah. It's the life of Simcha. I've been told by parents that what's going on in their homes is changing their families. Why? Because normally parents, they send their children off to yeshiva. So, okay, my son's in yeshiva. And then sometimes it's pretty normal that, when a person, he leaves yeshiva over Beina's man and he comes home, there's a very normal mentality as a person sometimes slips back into his old self. But it's something which we need to work on, that I'm the same person in yeshiva as I am at home. And I bring yeshiva with me because that's who I am. But now, because of the virus, or both sides, we're living yeshiva, we're living the life of B'nai Torah in our homes. And it's bringing an infused energy into our homes. It's uplifting our families. It's bringing life in such a time where there could be such difficulty and just cramped, and my mind and psyche is cramped. But the B'nai Torah of the world are bringing chayim into their homes, into their parents' homes, and permeating this just life, just excitement for life, and energy for life, because the B'nai Torah are clinging to life itself. I remember once I went with a number of Bachrim when I was in Eretz Yisrael to Rav Gershon Edelstein, the Shiva of Panovich. And we asked for a bracha. And he said, you don't need a bracha. He said, you Chavra are living it up. Moshe Rabbeinu, he was Yismach Moshe b'matnas chalko. We read when we daven Shachris, on Shabbos, Yismach Moshe b'matnas chalko. Why was Moshe Rabbeinu so happy with the great gift? What was his great gift? It's ki Even Neman Karasalo. Because he was called an Even Neman. He's called an Eved, a trustworthy Eved HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Rav Edelstein, he said, the B'nai Torah of the world are the Eved Neman Karasalo. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is calling us the Eved Neman. So Yismach, the Chavra are so happy because you're the Eved Neman of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the schus that we have, being the B'nai Torah of the world, holding up the world, clinging to life itself, living it up in this world, an incredible simchas achayim, because we are an Eved Neman. I'd like to finish off with the last segment. Is Rabbi Yisrael Salanta talks about another aspect of Chaim, and he says that we need to be a Chai Margish B'Chesrono. We need to be a person that's alive, that we sense our chesaron, that which we're lacking, that which we need improvement upon. And Rabbi Yisrael tells us that there's only one way to become a Chai Margish, a person that's alive, that senses to what he needs improvement upon. And that is through Limud HaMusar. Through Limud HaMusar, we come to understand where we need to improve upon, how to come closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and with more shleimus. the call of the hour, everybody has been talking about we need to do tshuva. We need to improve this, we need to improve that. Rabbi Yisrael Salanta tells us how to do tshuva. It's to become a chai margish. To do tshuva, a person has to be margish that there's something to do tshuva for, to sense that I need to improve. And that is through limud ha-musar. The schus in today's day to learn musar is unbelievable. I was talking to Rabbi Harris recently, and he said he was talking to Rav Elia Brudny. And so Rav Elia Brudny, he said that about musar, it's a chelik which is a chelik of Yiddishkeit, which is unfortunately in a corner. And Rabbi Harris, he was saying that he heard from a big Baal Musar in Eretz Yisrael that today he's encouraging, you know how to get into Musar. Rabbi said, this is what you need to do. You need to hear a good Musar shmooze once a week. But what about limud ha-musar every day? Rabbi Harris, he said, it's dead. But Rabbi say, it's never dead. The Torah is lo yamushu mi picha mi zaracha mi zera zaracha mi atavi olam. It's never dead. And us as the Bnei Torah, and we've had such incredible chinuch in yeshiva, and we are still currently in yeshiva, even if we're not physically in yeshiva, and even if we haven't been physically in yeshiva for a number of years, but we're still in yeshiva. And we're learning the lessons of yeshiva to get into musar in a deeper way, to bring us closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we'll have Yeshuos and Nechamos for Klal Yisrael, for ourselves personally, for our families, and for Klal Yisrael the world over. Thank you so much, Rabbi Kier. Thank you so much, Rabbi Palgan. Thank you so much, all the Rosh Yeshivas, the correspondents.
Amen.
Thank you.
Anyone has any questions, comments?
I didn't. I got chopped off by the mushal of Rav Gifter of the fish out of the. Can Rabbi please repeat the mushal with the fish out of water, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. A pleasure. So it's like this. That why did Chazal compare it to fish out of water? Not anything else that's just in its. That's not getting the nutrition or the oxygen that it needs. Why dafka? Why did it compare it to a fish? So he explains because when a person, or not a person, when an animal is not getting the nutrition that it needs, it looks like it's dying. But a fish out of water sometimes doesn't look like it's dying. It's flopping around. And it looks like it's very much alive. So that's what Rav Gifter was saying, is that a person al Torah could look like he's very much alive, but the emes is that he's really on his way down as well. That's why Chazal compared it to a fish out of water. That's what Rav Gifter said. That's what Rabbi Shapiro said in the name of Rav Gifter.
Yeah. Sorry, just one quick question before I have somebody else ask a question. You mentioned how happy we have to be, how Rav Gershon Edelstein, Rabbi Goldman, you said how Rav Gershon told you, we're living it up, B'nai Torah. It's very hard, Rabbi Goldman, it's very hard to judge Yiddishkeit and to stereotype and to generalize when you see people act a certain way. It's hard to do that because a lot of times people aren't acting the way they should be. But at the same time, you look around a lot of yeshiva guys, Rabbi Goldman, and you say to yourself, I was okay to learn Eretz Yisrael for almost 3 years in a couple different yeshivas, and I saw a lot of people in Kollel, and I said to myself, why are these people not so? They don't look happy. Some of them actually look miserable.
Hey.
Why? It's a little sad. It's a little pathetic. But why? And you see guys get down, and there's no question. This bar is very big, but I don't want to downplay it, but at the same time, why do some people? Why is it that people people are doing that?
Listen, one thing is for sure, nobody does it on purpose.
I hope not.
Listen, emes is that everybody has their own reasons why that things wear on them, and the Maisa as a whole, there's no question that B'nai Torah are by far happier. But that being said, you're right. Listen, first of all, if people were into Musar better, that they'd be much happier. That's for sure. And it's possible that that's part of the answer to your question. And the Maisa, there's plenty of other things. Bottom line is that when you get to know people, you see that there's a lot of things that have gone on in their lives that have made it very, very hard for them. And we certainly cannot judge anybody as to why, he's happy, he must not be a good person. He could be the biggest tzaddik in the world. But the Maisa, he's had it hard for whatever reason. And sometimes even people who you think have not had it hard, they've really had it hard. I still remember something which made a very big rosham on me once. I remember I had a friend many years ago that he came from a very, very wealthy family, and he had an incredible house. And I still remember he told me once, he said, "I'm homesick." I said, "What are you talking? What do you mean you're homesick?" You're not homesick? He said, "I'm sick of home." I said, "What are you talking about?" In my mind, I'm like, how can you be sick of home? You're probably living in a palace. And then, things that happen like this over time come to realize that, it's not simple to know what's going on in somebody else's life. This person is sick of home. I mean, my goodness, I'm telling you, guy mamash lived in a palace. It's hard to know what's going on. We don't know what's going on in people's life. But I will tell you a secret, though. If you find out what's going on in a person's life, you will respect him way, 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 way more than you ever respected him before you knew what was going on in his life. It's humbling. The more that you know what's going on in a person's life, you feel like just small in their presence. Because you can't imagine if you were in their circumstance where you would be. So it makes you feel very, very small. So, look, especially in Eretz Yisrael, it's tremendous poverty, tremendous poverty. And you know what? I know plenty of people that live in Eretz Yisrael. I have tons of relatives in Eretz Yisrael. And I'm telling you, I know they're not living in the life of luxury, but it's unbelievable. So many of them, simcha exudes from them.
Yeah.
It's very, very special. But so it's hard to know. There's no real answer. Like why? Why? Because I'll tell you, just take somebody who's going through a hard time. He doesn't look so happy, and get to know him, and then you know why, and then you would just respect him and be in awe of him. That's all that I could say. All right. Okay, let's take one more before we go. We need another good topic. That was a great topic. Yasher Koach.
Shkoich to you.
All right.
Rabbi, I have a question, Kai.
Sure.
Could Rabbi give an example?
Yitzi? Shalom Aleichem Yitzi. Oh, I recognize the voice. And then I say Yitzi. By the way, it's Reb Chaim said Baumstein, not Baumser. Rabbi Bregman, he corrected me. Okay. So Yitzi, yes.
Rabbi seems so excited and happy, just mentioning the idea about Musar and how it could make a person's life so happy. And
Yitzi, I feel your smile. You don't even have your picture on, but we can feel your smile. Yes, we can feel the excitement that came from a person that's steiging and learning and just said a chabura because of incredible amelis and Torah. It's coming through. It's coming through, even though your picture is not there, Yitzi. Yes.
I'm on, Rabbi, I'm on.
But I don't see you. Okay.
Oh, okay. So I was just like, sometimes that Musar just seems very difficult. I remember Rabbi talking about Mesilas Yesharim says that it's hard to even believe that it works. You just have to trust the people, the Muslim. So like, does Rabbi have any thoughts of how we could try to become even more excited about it?
Even more excited. Oh. Learn the letters of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. The letters of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter are so powerful. But the imperative, when you read them, you feel like there's no choice. That we must do it, and it works. You get a real feel that this is it. This is the Eitzah that's going to help us grow as Ovdei Hashem and come closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So to learn about Musar, to learn the letters of Yisrael Salanter, you'll feel much more connected to Musar. And the bottom line is just look in the mirror, and we all see you on Zoom. You got a big smile on your face, and we all know why. There's no way in the world that you'd be so happy as a person unless you were into Musar. It's efshar. So that's it. That's your chizuk. Is take chizuk from yourself. All right, Rabosai. You should all enjoy Yasher Koach. Thank you so much, Rabbi Kier. All right.
Thank you, Rabbi Goldman.
Okay. Rabbi Kier.
Thank you so much.
Rabbi Kier, was it recorded?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah. I was going to answer, Rabbi Yitzi, if you see Rabbi Goldman learning Musar, how can you not get excited about Musar? I remember as a bacher, I would see him do Musar B'Spaus. He was the first person to teach me how to do Musar B'Spaus, just watching him. I was learning in Eretz Yisrael. He came to Branch for like a month or two, and he just like sat in the back and learned pounded Musar. I'm like, wow. You know what I'm talking about. You spent time in St. Louis. I assume he has a few minutes to sit there by a Musar Sefer. Great speech. Kananahara. Yeah, Yonah, you got to pass this around, Yonah. This is gold.
Yep, it was. Yep, that's a famous mushal from Rev Gifter. It's been a while since I heard it.
Yeah.
I need to review it.
Good stuff.
Yep.
Okay. Yosef Seabrow.
Hi there.
A kavod. Baruch Hashem.
I'll see all these, chaverim
Oh, Yosef Seabrow from Bayswater.
That's me, yeah.
How are you?